All right, welcome to the quarterly dairy legal webinar for the second quarter of 2024, focusing on U.S. state milk pricing and supports part 2 in the Western states. My name is Audrey Thompson. I'm a staff attorney here at the Penn State Center for Agricultural and Shale Law. Next slide, please. I'd like to thank our partner, the National Agricultural Law Center, for sponsoring this webinar. The National Agricultural Law Center at the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture serves as the nation's leading source of agricultural and food law research and information. This material is provided as part of that partnership and is based upon work supported by the National Agricultural Library, Agricultural Research Service, U.S. Department of Agriculture. Next slide. This webinar is the 16th in our Dairy Quarterly Legal Webinar Series. Previous webinars have included discussions of federal milk marketing orders, geographical indications in dairy products, risk management, the Pennsylvania Milk Marketing Law, and many, many more. You can find those at the website there. All right, let's get this going. I will turn this webinar over to Chloe Marie, our research specialist, who will present a roundup of this quarter's dairy legal developments. Chloe, the screen's all yours.
Thank you, Audrey, and welcome everyone. So in each webinar, we focus on key developments of the previous quarter, and the second quarter of 2024 has been marked by the threat of highly pathogenic avian influenza, HPAI, affecting dairy cattle. So this has led to some important actions being taken at the federal level, but also by a few states in our area to prevent the spread of HPAI in dairy cattle, which actions may affect how we source cattle, move them between states, and participate in exhibitions. We also have seen some updates to food packaging for the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infants, and children, some amendments to the animal disease traceability regulations, also the first allocation of funding under the USDA Regional Agricultural Promotion Program, and the FDA's completion of its review for dairy cattle methane-reducing feed supplement. But first, let's talk about the recent actions taken by the USDA to prevent the spread of HPAI. So back in April, the USDA Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service issued new measures for testing and reporting, and now requires all dairy cattle to test negative for HPAI before they can be moved between states. This is to help prevent the disease from spreading from farm to farm. The order requires that any cows moving across state lines needs a negative HPAI test from a certified laboratory. If a cow tests positive, the owner needs to provide information about where the cow has been and what other animals it has been in contact with. And all labs and state veterinarians are required to report any positive HPAI tests in livestock to the USDA. And the USDA will also bear the cost of testing for dairy cattle showing clinical signs of disease, for pre-movement testing, for producers who want to know the disease status of their healthy animals, and for testing livestock animals other than dairy cattle. And actually, the USDA letter clarified that cows moving within the same state to a sale barn do not need the HPAI tests. Also, lactating dairy cows going straight to slaughter after moving interstate from a sale barn only need a certificate of veterinary inspection without additional testing. Later on in May, the USDA also announced additional resources to help farmers dealing with HPAI, and this includes financial assistance up to $2,000 per month for producers who provide protective equipment for farm workers, up to $1,500 for producers to develop biosecurity plans on their farm, up to $2,000 per month for producers who set up a system to treat all waste milk before disposal, and about $10,000 to cover veterinary costs related to HPAI outbreaks. And the USDA also set aside $98 million to help states with movement restrictions regulations. Additionally, the USDA will compensate producers for lost milk production through the existing Emergency Assistance for Livestock, Honeybees, and Farm-Raised Fish program. And actually, application enrollment started on July 1st. And most recently, at the end of May, the USDA announced a new voluntary program for dairy farmers. This pilot program allows producers to test their entire herd's milk weekly instead of individual cows. So if the bulk milk tests negative for HPAI for 3 weeks in a row, the cows can be moved interstate without individual animal testing. The USDA is currently selecting states to participate in this pilot program, and more detailed information on enrollment and maintaining herd status will be available soon. In addition, the USDA announced it was allocating $824 million to its Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service to help quickly identify and respond to outbreaks, develop vaccines for animals, and ensure the safety of the food supply. And just like Audrey mentioned, as a heads up, Brooke is presenting a webinar on HPAI in poultry and cattle tomorrow with the National Agricultural Law Center. So the webinar will start at noon, and you still have time to register through the link we provide at the end of this presentation. Now, regarding state actions. So the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture jumped into action on April 6, 2024, and issued an interstate and international quarantine order. This order says that any dairy cow coming into Pennsylvania from another farm, state, or country needs to be tested for HPAI if that farm, state, or country has had a confirmed case in the past 30 days. This order outlines the testing procedures for HPAI before cows can be imported. So a representative sample of at least 30 animals from each shipment needs to be tested within 5 days of transport. If there are fewer than 30 cows, all of them must be tested. The animals being tested must have been together for at least 30 days before the test. Each sample must be tested using a PCR test approved by the National Veterinary Services Laboratory. And finally, testing must be done at a certified USDA laboratory. But there are a few exceptions, though. Cows under a year old, cattle going straight to slaughter, and those with special biosecurity agreements are all exempt from the testing requirements. And later, on May 29, the PDA issued a new quarantine order, this time specifically for dairy cattle exhibitions. This one says that any cow, whether lactating or not, cannot be shown if it is sick with HPAI symptoms, has been around confirmed cases in cattle or birds, or comes from an area with confirmed HPAI in birds within 3 kilometers. Additionally, all dairy cattle over 18 months need to be tested within a week before entering any exhibition. So the state of Maryland, but also New York, also followed suit. On April 10, the Maryland Department of Agriculture issued an order restricting dairy cattle coming into the state from places with confirmed HPAI outbreaks. The department, however, will allow entry if the cattle have a health certificate signed by a veterinarian within 7 days of transport. And by April 22, the New York Department of Agriculture and Markets put a temporary ban on dairy cattle coming in from farms that had confirmed cases of HPAI. Additionally, the order specifies that cattle from affected states can still enter New York, but they need a certificate of veterinary inspection within 10 days of arrival, stating that the cattle are HPAI-free. New York, however, reminded that there have been no confirmed cases of HPAI in the states, in the livestock so far, and is acting proactively. So we'll keep you updated on any further developments related to HPAI and dairy cattle. But in the meantime, be sure to check the USDA website for the latest information. And as a reminder, to date, HPAI was confirmed in dairy cattle in the states of Colorado, Minnesota, Iowa, Michigan, Texas, Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota, Kansas, New Mexico, and North Carolina. All right, now shifting our focus to non-HPAI issues. In April, the USDA implemented some changes to the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infants, and children's food packages to reflect the recommendations outlined in the dietary guidelines for Americans. And among the changes are some new guidelines for dairy products. So first, there will be a slight decrease in the total amount of milk offered each month from 1624 quarts to 1216 quarts. Also, the WIC program will only offer unflavored milk options. The program is also now allowing plant-based milk alternatives, yogurt and cheeses to be included as substitutes for milk in some cases. And for yogurts to be included, they need to have a specific level of vitamin D. And also 1-year-old children can now have reduced fat yogurts. So the states have until April 20, 2026 to fully implement the new changes and until April 19, 2027 to meet the yogurt minimum vitamin D requirements. The USDA also recently announced a new rule amending the animal disease traceability regulations and requiring all dairy cattle moved between states to have electronic ear tags. These tags must be both visually and electronically readable, and the new rule goes into effect on November 5, 2024. And the USDA also allocated $300 million in funding to 66 U.S. organizations that are part of the Regional Agricultural Promotion Program. So this program is a recently launched initiative by the USDA to support American agricultural exports in established but also emerging markets worldwide. The total investment amounted to $1.2 billion. And among the diverse projects funded by the program, the U.S. Dairy Export Council plans to use it to develop new markets for dairy products in Africa. And finally, the FDA completed its review of a feed supplement designed to reduce methane emissions in dairy cows. So according to Elanco, the company behind that feed supplement, feeding 1 tablespoon of Bovaer per lactating dairy cow per day can reduce methane emissions by about 30% equivalent emissions annually. So while not yet officially FDA approved, the agency indicated it won't take action against its use. So that is all for today's dairy roundup developments, and I will now hand it over to Brooke.